Hey, what's happening, friends? Trumpeter and improviser and bona fide music theory nerd Bobby Spellman here. And as we wrap up 2024, I thought it'd be fun to do a little casual lo-fi wrap-up episode talking about some of the things that we did this year and what we plan on doing next year. So it's been an exciting year here at the Ridgewood School of Music. We covered quite an extensive series on the Lydian chromatic concept. We've been talking a lot about trumpet flexibilities. My new book came out, Flexibilities for Trumpet, Progressive Flexibilities for Trumpet. Big thanks to everybody who bought a copy of the book. If you'd like a copy, I'll leave a link in the description below. We're going to talk about improvisation and brass technique and all kinds of fun stuff. So, now that we've covered the ground that we've covered in 2024, going into 2025, I am going to make a little shift in gears here, and we're going to start a series on improvisation. And improvisation in particular as it relates to the jazz tradition. Now, before I dive into all of this improvisation business, which I think we're going to have a lot of fun with, I wanted to give you a little overview on my philosophy of improvisation and some of my views on being an improviser and what you're looking for as you start your own journey or continue your now established journey as a musical improviser. So, improvisation is a interesting and complicated subject in music, and it brings with it a number of challenges as well as a lot of excitement. One thing that I think to start is important to remember is that we're all improvisers. Every time you have a conversation with somebody, you are improvising. You're building on what you already know and your background and the way that your parents taught you to speak and the language and vocabulary and vernacular that you picked up from your friends and colleagues and whatnot. And that's all getting jumbled around in your brain, and then you're able to operate in real time back and forth with whoever you're communicating with. We don't think of that as improvisation, we just think of that as a conversation. But in many ways, the systems work the same, whether you're communicating with somebody verbally or whether you're playing music in a group. So I think there's a lot of mystery surrounding learning improvisation, and a lot of feelings of trepidation and minor fear about breaking the rules or not following the correct consonances and dissonances and whatnot that a piece requires. But I think that oftentimes people overthink the process and get themselves into a little bit of a rut. So my goal with the series, as it will go forward, is to try to demystify many of the components of improvisation, not only for people who are just starting out as improvisers, but also people who may have been improvising for a while on whatever musical instrument they happen to be playing. Now, the challenge of being a teacher of improvisation or composition is the idea that at any time, I think a responsible teacher of improvisation has to balance the technical and traditional requirements of playing in a certain style of music or with a certain kind of group or within a certain, tradition, with the importance of being a creative individual. So one of the things that I absolutely love about jazz music and improvised music generally is that every individual musician has his or her own personal sound. And that is endlessly thrilling to me. I think that's really fun. So, for example, if I put on a record of Dexter Gordon or Coleman Hawkins or John Coltrane or Stanley Turrentine or Chris Potter, etc., you could go on and on. Within a couple of notes, I'm going to be able to figure out who is playing. It's not always the case, but the ideal is for each individual musician to find their own sound. Now, this is also paired with the importance of understanding how to navigate the sort of theoretical requirements in order to make sure that everything that you're playing is what you want to do, is that it sounds consonant within a certain context. Now, consonant is very relative. I'm a huge fan, for example, of free musicians like Ornette Coleman and Anthony Braxton and Albert Eiler. the list goes on. And I'm a particularly big fan of inside-outside players like Woody Shaw and Eric Dolphy and the like. So I'm a huge fan of inside players like Chet Baker, as well as the inside-outside players, as well as the free players. And there's a value to all of that, and to me, it's all exciting. I want to be able to be in a position in which I can combine these things freely at will, and I don't feel beholden to one approach or the other. Now, again, that makes things a little tricky as a teacher, because my job is to try to bring my students into the world of improvisation in a way that they understand the mechanics of the music that they're playing, but without stifling their choices as individual artists. And that's really the tricky balance. So, just to solidify that, what I mean by that is I can improvise on any musical instrument I want. For example, I could take this little Korg baby synthesizer, and I can improvise on this. And that might be really fun. And it is original, what I'm doing. But I don't really know what I'm doing. So if I were going to try to play this over, let's say, a jazz group playing All the Things You Are, it may seem like I'm off the mark a lot of the time. And indeed, I would be. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't use something like this to create a certain emotional and textural component to the music, and that might be really fun. But as my old teacher John McNeil once said, you can't be creative if you don't know anything. So the goal for this next series on improvisation will be to try to balance the importance of understanding the mechanics of how music, improvised music works, and particularly music in the sort of jazz standards tradition, with the importance of carving out your own individual sound. Now, as mentioned, that's a little bit of a tricky balance, because it would be very easy for me to say, here's some licks, play the licks over these chord changes, and you will sound good right away. And that will work for people who are trying to just bypass the artistic side of it and just get right to being technically accurate. But it is at the detriment of the, I would say, process required in order to work out your own individual sound as an artist. So what does it mean to find your own individual sound? Well, every person has their own preferences, their own loves of certain styles of music, maybe a distaste for other styles of music. Some people may find that they're more attracted to more linear styles of improvisation, the likes of which you might hear in, for example, Chet Baker's playing or in Paul Desmond's playing, things of that nature. And other people may find that they're more attracted to more angular playing, like you might hear out of Woody Shaw or Eric Dolphy, for example. Or some people may find that they're more gravitated towards the bluesy playing of somebody like Stanley Turrentine or Nat Adderley, and other people may find that they're more interested in some very technical approaches to playing that's a little bit more in the theoretical zone. Something like that. I mean, I'm making this all up as I go along. But my point is just to say that each individual person is going to have his or her own preference for the style, the kind of tone that he or she wants on their musical instrument, or the approach that they have to different feels and styles, and even what kinds of music they choose to play. All of that to me is valid. I love so many different styles of music and so many different approaches to improvised music generally, and I want to make sure that my students that I work with, and also the greater, community of people learning how to improvise across the world, are all sort of feeling as though they can balance those two sides, understanding the technical requirements and also pursuing their own artistry. So for that reason, I will not make videos that have titles like 10 licks that you absolutely must know how to play in order to play jazz, or my top 10 jazz standards for blah, 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 or whatever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to set up a series of videos that take all of us through little segments of chord progressions that can then be assembled to, navigate some of the most common jazz standards. So without giving too much away, my goal in the near future, is going to be to compile a list of very practical list of standards, jazz standards primarily that are often played, that would be a good sort of guide for what you could approach if you're just picking up improvisation, or if you're deep in it and you're trying to expand your improvisational vocabulary. And then I'm going to do a series of videos on various chord progressions that make up many of these tunes that we know, and different ways that you can approach navigating these chords while always focusing on the process required in order to develop one's own personal sound. All right, so that's my goal. I'm just giving you the baseline understanding of what I'm going to do going forward in the future. That's my philosophy, is your job is to understand enough about music theory and about the tradition that you can play with other people and you can sound like you know what you're doing. And also, you want to have enough freedom to pursue your own musical personality that you don't feel stifled by, rules and specific requirements and things like that. Rules in music, to me, are not that helpful. I'm not a big rules guy. I'm not into rules. But what I am into is understanding why certain notes work in certain contexts and why certain notes may be a little bit more dissonant. And if you can capture how these things work and you can understand how to use them, then the sky's the limit in terms of your abilities as a musical improviser and as an artist. So stick around for this next season of Theory with Bob. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to get some friends in here to play some tunes. We're going to go over some chord progressions, talk about some conventions of jazz. I'm going to do some work trying to explain some lesser explained musics, like the music of Ornette Coleman and others. So that's going to be really fun. And if there's anything that you are particularly interested in that you would like us to cover here, please put it in the comments below. That's one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, is if there's anything that you're working on or you'd like to learn more about or you would find particularly interesting, put it in the comments below, and I will try to address those subjects in future videos. All right, gang, so if you're just starting out improvising and you want to try to get into it, my first recommendation before we even start this series is just to start listening to improvisers. That could be in any style. You could be talking about jazz improvisers. You could be talking about free improvisers. You could be talking about funk and soul and Afrobeat and R&B improvisers. Improvisation is the process more than the style. And as there's a great interview with Bill Evans, his brother, on YouTube, and they talk about making 1 minute's music in 1 minute's time. To be an improviser is to be a spontaneous composer. It's the idea that at any time you are in control of the circumstance in tandem with the other people that you're working with, but that you're really composing spontaneously. And beyond that, it's just a matter of how you want to try to pursue whatever the artistic choices that you're making. And the more you know, the more creative you can be within those contexts, and the more freedom you have to choose the paths that you want through the music that you're making. And that's, to me, the pinnacle of musical fun. All right, gang? So I just wanted to give a little overview of, what's been going on this year. It's been a great year. Big thanks to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Big thanks to everybody who's liked the videos and left comments and engaged with the stuff that we've been putting out here. It's great to have everybody on board, and it's been a lot of fun putting this stuff out. We're going to continue to do it in 2025 with a little focus on improvisation. All right, gang. Stick around for the next couple of episodes. We're going to talk a little bit more about theory and the fundamentals of improvisation, and then we're really going to hit the ground running and have some fun in 2025. All right. If you like this video and you want to keep up to date with what's going on, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. I feel like many of the people who've watched all the way up to minute 14 of this video are already subscribed to the channel, so thank you for that. Big thanks to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. You're the best. You guys are great. It's awesome. I appreciate it. And if you're interested in music lessons on your instrument, whether that be trumpet or other brass instruments like trombone, euphonium, baritone, horn, French horn, etc., or other woodwind instruments, piano, guitar, bass, etc., you can find us on, you send us an email at ridgewoodschoolofmusic@gmail.com, or find us on our website at www.ridgewoodschoolofmusic.com. All right, gang. I'll see you next week, but I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season, and we're going to have a lot of fun in 2024, 2025. Here we go. See ya.